Probably the things you're worried about today, the things you're stressed about today, when the time comes, you're going to witness yourself handling it like an adult of that future age. That's my prediction for you, and I bet I'm right. Welcome to How to Be an Adult, a podcast created by the team at the Morpheus Clinic for Hypnosis in Toronto, Canada. This is a show for people just like you who've inadvertently achieved adulthood and have no idea what to do with it. Whether you're 18 or 80, this show is the trail guide to life that you should have gotten when you achieved equality with your parents. We share our thoughts in public to democratize self-love, self-acceptance, and all those good things. I'm Luke Chao, and today I bring you a solo episode about how to cope with the unknown. When we were kids, we used to imagine literal monsters in the closet, or perhaps ghosts just beyond the boundaries of where the campfire lights the area. As we grow up, we realize there are no monsters in the closet, there are no monsters under the bed, there are no ghosts beyond the perimeter of the campfire. Instead, our attention goes to figurative monsters in the unknown future that could threaten our happiness, our wellness, our health, our relationships, or even our very lives. Just like the childhood monsters, once you stop believing in the adult version of monsters in the dark, they go away. And the best way to come to this understanding is to shine a light into the darkness. So that's what I hope to do with today's episode. Depending on the stage of life that you're in, these metaphorical monsters in the dark are going to change. If you're listening in your 20s, probably your career and what's going to happen with your career. What's going to happen with your finances? Will you be able to purchase a house one day? Will you find love and marry? These questions are what's in the unknown, and then the monsters are, well, what if you can't? If you're a little older, then you don't really stop imagining monsters in the dark, but the monsters you imagine are different. Like, what if I can't make my car payment? You would actually have to be leasing a car, for example, to have that fear. Or is this mole possibly malignant? You have to have enough sun exposure before that thought is likely to enter your mind. And then you get older again, and then you worry, are my kids going to have a future? You start to worry because after a certain age, your friends start dying. So what's going to happen with them? What's going to happen with me if all my friends die? I've used the very general term, monsters in the dark, because I know I have listeners spanning 18 to 80. As I say in the introduction, you can plug in your own examples because you know you and I don't. I'm going to use the analogy of a road trip. When you're driving a car, the path might be a winding one, especially if you're on some country roads or if you're in the mountains. And when you take this winding path, you don't quite know what's around the next corner. You don't know what's over the next hill because there could be a moose. There might be a pothole. There could plausibly be a traffic jam or a rock slide. There are these kinds of potential threats in the unknown future. But when you don't have any anxiety around driving, you don't even consider the possibility that around the next corner there could be a moose. Or over the next hill, there's a bunch of potholes. Instead, what you do is you trust the evidence of your senses every moment of the drive. When you can see that the road ahead seems clear, you have confidence in the road ahead. And as you drive, you start to round the corners. You start to crest the hills. And then you're able to see more of what's on the road ahead. If you see it's just dry pavement, blue skies, then you can have a whole drive without any fear or trepidation. And you never had to imagine any threats the entire drive. All of this is, of course, a metaphor for life, because up to now, you've never actually been able to predict the future with any reliability. Despite all your anxious thoughts and what-if scenarios and all the efforts to predict and guess, you've never actually been able to predict with any confidence or certainty what might happen in an hour, let alone a day, a week, a month, or a year. What you've done instead, this is starting from childhood, starting from kindergarten through high school, through your 20s. What you're actually doing is you're seeing with your own eyes, you're hearing with your own ears what actually transpires day after day after day. And when misfortune strikes, you didn't have to anticipate it. When misfortune strikes, you can see it, you can hear it. It's not imaginary. And then you deal with that one reality. In other words, you don't have to deal with the potentially infinite possible realities. You only need to deal with the one singular reality that you actually inhabit. I know the anxious mind and the stressed mind has this tendency to ignore the actual reality, where probably you're constantly in circumstances of material safety. And the anxious or stressed mind tends to kind of imagine, well, what could be around the corner? What might be lurking underneath the bed? And just like the childhood monsters, these imagined threats disappear as soon as you stop believing in them. In the past, your entire life up to now, when you've had to handle misfortune, like a sudden illness or a job loss or a breakup, you dealt with it successfully enough and probably without much or without any prior preparation. So here's my prediction about your future, if you'd like a prediction at all. In a day, a week, a month, a year, a decade, the future you, when they round the corner or crest the hill, once they can see what they're dealing with, they can deal with misfortune without prior preparation and successfully, as you take this typically 80-plus year journey to a long life. I would even suggest that that length of timeline is not too optimistic, but is just simply the statistical mean. For everyone who has a shortened life, there's someone else who has an unusually long life. So we're going to average everything out. If you're in Canada, you'd be right to guess you're probably going to live into your 80s. If you're in America, late 70s, I believe, is average. And there's no self-deception in mentally preparing for that future. I know that it's the more boring future to prepare for, because then you have to invest like in an index fund. Then you have to eat your vegetables and wear your sunscreen. And then you have to take care of the people in your life, because you're probably going to be old one day. But that is the future to mentally prepare for if you're going to try to peer into the unknown at all. Let's peer into the future the way an actuary does. And an actuary would guess that on the balance of things, knowing nothing else about you other than where you live, you're probably going to grow old one day. I'm going to make some other very sound predictions about your future while we engage in this exercise of peering beyond the hill or corner. Whatever is over there, you are still a living human being with all the qualities, all the capabilities, all the adaptivity of one living human being, as long as you can raise the question at all. Now, of course, if the living part goes away, then you don't have to worry. But imagining a future where you are worried, you are a living human being. This is a definite known. It's also a definite known that if you're already past the age of 18, society already considers you an adult. So whatever's over the next hill, whatever's around the next corner, you're going to handle things the way an adult of that future age is going to handle things. This is a known. That doesn't mean you have to handle things perfectly. That doesn't mean that what you do is something everyone agrees to. What it means is you have more than 18 years of life experience to draw upon for whatever decisions you have to make, whatever loss you have to cope with, whichever ways you have to pivot in your life to account for what is over the next hill or around the next corner. Sometimes we feel like lost children after the age of 18. And that's one of those feelings that is unrepresentative of how we are in actuality. We have to kind of flash back to an earlier time in our lives to then be able to feel like that lost child. So if you are feeling like a lost child at the same time you're actually a man or a woman, it means that you've incompletely accounted for all the years of your life and everything you've accomplished and everything you've learned. Something else we know for sure about what's over the next hill or around the next corner is when you reach the vantage point where you can see, then you will have knowledge of which one of infinite possibilities you actually in truth inhabit. Right now, there are infinite possibilities for what you see over the hill. That's true. There are infinite things that, let's say, the President of the United States of America could announce tomorrow. But when tomorrow comes, you don't have to guess or speculate. You will have knowledge. Knowledge that your very own eyes and ears and senses will present to you. I would suggest this frees you from any need or obligation to guess with zero information something that within a day you're going to know as a matter of fact. So let's say that I apply for some kind of award or grant, and I don't know how they're going to rule because there's 200 other people vying for the same prize. Well, I don't have to guess if I'm the one out of 200. When the day of the announcement comes, I will have knowledge. If I am the one, I will be able to deal with that possibility like an adult of that future age. If it's someone else who wins the drawing or the award or whatever, then I can deal with that like an adult of that future age. And it means that I don't have to worry in advance. I don't even have to try to guess which one of infinite futures I'm actually going to inhabit. I can just let time unfold, witnessing how time unfolds. Exactly the same way I witness a drive unfolding. Now, we drive with our ears, with our eyes, with our hands, with our senses. We do not drive with the imagination, with conjecture, with what might be, could be, or what if this, or how about that. All those thoughts are a distraction from you driving safely. I want you to be a safe driver in life. All those counterfactual thoughts are a distraction from the matters of fact that are in front of you. If you can see with your eyes and hear with your ears that you are safe in the circumstances you're in, your senses don't deceive. If you grew up with a lot of stress or anxiety, you might feel that a bad thing's going to follow when you witness apparent calm. But that's just an adaptation to an earlier environment that you're no longer in. In adulthood, you control your environment to a large degree, which means if you're in your own home, for instance, and you see and hear that there's no one loudly stomping around recklessly, if you can see and hear that everything's okay, you can believe the evidence of your senses. If a bad thing were to happen, you'd see it, you'd hear it, and knowing the exact nature of the bad thing, you'd be able to handle it. But when you only see and hear that good things are happening, that's the reality to wrap your head around. One last thing that we know for sure about what is over the next hill, so what could transpire tomorrow, is that the future you has roughly the same perceptiveness and intelligence and capabilities that you have today, just with the added benefit of knowledge, knowing which one of infinite futures they'll inhabit. So knowing that the future you is still intelligent and capable, that's another thing that liberates you from any need to guess with no information. Because if the future you can steer, if the future you can accelerate or decelerate, if the future you can change course or even do a U-turn and go back, then there is no utility in guessing what might be over the hill. Now, in every possible permutation of tomorrow, what I've claimed here to be knowns are going to be there to serve you. I know that there is the edge case of what if you die? What if you lose a sense? But then you got bigger problems to worry about than like what the president says or whether your eldest child gets into McGill. Probably the things you're worried about today, the things you're stressed about today, when the time comes, you're going to witness yourself handling it like an adult of that future age. But that's my prediction for you. And I bet I'm right. I alluded to this point earlier, but let me come back around to it. Most of what you're stressed and anxious and worried about has nothing to do with the matters of fact in this concrete material universe you're actually inhabiting. Most of what you're stressed and worried about is a counterfactual, something that isn't so. It's something that might be so or should be so. It's something that could be so, hypothetically. It's a what if, but it's not what is. To give you an example, let's say that I'm riding on the subway and the person right next to me coughs and sneezes. Now, in my head, I'm thinking, well, how dare they ride the subway without a mask post-COVID? And now they coughed, now they sneezed. Well, I could get sick tomorrow. I could lose all my clients this week and have no income this week. What if? What could be? These are counterfactuals. These are things that are not happening right now. What's actually happening is that person coughed and sneezed, and I held my breath and I turned my face away, and now I'm getting up to get the heck away from that person. I have the right to be at peace in that moment. Because the matter of fact isn't that I have to cancel any appointments. The matter of fact is that I'm now one full streetcar length or subway car length away from that person who just coughed and sneezed. Most of the time someone coughs and sneezes next to me, I don't get sick. Sometimes I do. But it is unnecessary suffering if before I've shown a single symptom, I'm angry at that person, I'm stressed about what I'm going to do the next 1 or 2 weeks, and I'm entertaining all these what if worst case scenarios about what if I get sick and what social engagements do I have to cancel and what would they think of me. I know you probably do this to yourself. Most of us do. So the thing to do instead is to pay attention to what your eyes and ears are showing to you. So if you are a full streetcar length away, then in truth, you are a full streetcar length away from that person who's demonstrated themselves to be sick. The reality that you've put a safe distance is fact. It is objectively truthful. You can have a lot of confidence in that reality. But the possibility, whether it's 50%, 20%, 5%, 1% of getting sick, that's not reality. Now, within a few days, you'll know if it is the reality. And whatever the reality is, it's something you can handle. But in that moment, it's not reality. I would be suffering totally unnecessarily if I worried about it. The other thing is, even if I did get sick, the future me will be able to diplomatically word text messages or emails or phone calls for all the people I'm inconveniencing by being sick. The future me is going to handle things like an adult. So even in that eventuality, I don't have to worry preemptively. Because within a couple of days, I'm going to know if I got sick or not. All conjecture goes out the window entirely when the time comes. Every form of distress that comes from guessing futilely about an unknown future goes away when you stop guessing futilely about an unknown future. Again, earlier in this episode, I gave you some examples of knowns. If the future you is going to live, if the future you can handle things like an adult, if the future you actually has knowledge of what happens, then we can kick the can down the road and wait and see, as responsible adults do all the time. Sometimes we feel like responsible adults necessarily have to worry if that's what was modeled to us when we were children, but I'll be the one to say that responsible adults, like your family physician, for example, will take a wait and see approach when they don't have enough knowledge, or when after enough time passes, they will have knowledge. You are permitted to take this wait and see approach. So here's how to use your imagination. If it's not to imagine all the myriad scenarios you don't want, how do you use your imagination? Well, let's imagine an ocean-faring vessel. In the middle of the Pacific, there are 360 degrees of freedom the captain can turn the ship in. But there's only 1 degree of freedom or even less, that leads straight to the next port. The captain doesn't have to worry about the 359 degrees of freedom that lead elsewhere. She just has to stay at the helm and steer the ship so it's pointed at the destination, and automatically, without even effort, she steers away from every other direction. So the way to use your imagination, instead of thinking about the 359 places you don't want to go, it's to think of the one future that you do want to create. So it's kind of like the athlete mentally preparing for a path to victory. It's kind of like the painter visualizing on the canvas what they do want to paint before applying the first brush stroke. You want to use your imagination to imagine what you want. Now, if you have a tendency toward anxiety, you might feel again that this is irresponsible, this is selfish, that adults don't do this. No, adults do this. People you know who don't worry so much and just focus on getting things done, they're turning their ships in the 1 degree of freedom that's going to lead to their next destination, and they are going to ignore everything else, including everything that could be, might be, or should be. There is a use for counterfactual thinking sometimes, like there are thought experiments you could do, but the kind of counterfactual thinking that leads you to worry and to stress, I am suggesting you don't actually need. The best way to predict the future is to be creating it. So the best way for the artist to know what's going to be on the canvas is to visualize it and then start making that vision into reality. The best way to win the game is not to be a spectator who has to bet futilely. The best way is to be one of the athletes who knows they're utterly prepared to defeat their opponent and to win the game. When you take your place at the helm and you're steering the ship where you want to go, you're also going to be focusing on everything you control. And there is going to be a sense of confidence and security that follows from taking into account everything you control, even if it means there's no more space left in your mind for literally everything that you do not control. The captain doesn't control the seas, the waves, the winds, the weather. They're not Poseidon. The captain controls her own ship. And that's enough. That whatever's over the horizon, as long as she's at the helm, she'll navigate it until she's at the destination, even if she's blown off course. For the most part, the evidence of your eyes and ears is the very best guide to concrete reality that a person possibly can have. And even if you can only see the present, using the present to guess about the future gives you a very solid starting point. The very same eyes and ears that are capable of navigating a winding mountain road are capable of helping you navigate a new relationship, career changes, or even a changing global order. It is true that none of us have any idea what's going to happen with, let's say, the stock market tomorrow, or global conflict this day next week. I'm saying we don't have to. We do not need this power of foresight. The future you is perceptive enough, capable enough, mature enough, intelligent enough that once they know exactly what the future holds, they'll adapt to that. Just as the child sleeps better at night when they stop imagining monsters under the bed or in the closet, an adult rests more easily when they stop imagining the adult version of what could hurt them in the unknown future. For some of my clients, it's what's going to happen when I board that aircraft. Well, what's probably going to happen is after the expected length of time, the plane lands in a different city, it reaches the gate, the door opens, and you disembark. If we're going to guess about the future, that's probably what's going to happen. Other clients wonder, will they be able to handle becoming a parent or a promotion at work? And if they estimate their capabilities based on everything up to the present day, they're likely to recognize how they came to be a parent to begin with, or how they came to get the promotion to begin with. And then if they estimate the future based on today, then they're estimating it from a very sound starting point. I know that at first it feels unusual and maybe even unsafe not to guess at the future and to believe with optimism in your heart that you're going to be okay tomorrow and you'll be okay the next day. And then one day you find yourself an old man or woman. At first it feels maybe foolish, maybe naive, maybe too optimistic and unsafe. If that's you, you grew up in an unsafe environment. And in adulthood, you do not have to be adapted to that environment any longer. In adulthood, you're the captain of your ship. In adulthood, when good things happen, like when you have good people around you, it's not because anyone else made that happen. It's because you made that happen, and you're going to keep making that happen. And that's why in your adult life, good things last. But I assure you that feeling unsafe in the world was at one point earlier in your life unfamiliar too. It only just became familiar with repetition. Feeling safe in the world, if you agree as an adult with what I'm telling you here, feeling safe in the world is going to become a new normal. When you keep believing the evidence of your senses, when you keep letting the future you handle the future when it arrives, when you keep causing good things to happen with all the agency that an adult has. You can get used to this. Your adulthood is the forever stage in your life. You are well adapted to even one day when you're 80 or 100, if you fully feel like an adult. Thank you for listening to this episode. At the Morpheus Clinic for Hypnosis, we think of ourselves as practical philosophers at heart. People bring to us their life problems. We think on their behalf about their problems. We come up with best practices for how to think, and then we deliver those best practices in thought as clearly as we're able to. If you're in a position to pay for private sessions, please contact my office at morpheusclinic.com to ask for a free consultation and treatment plan. If you aren't in a position to pay for private sessions, you're not in trouble. We have a monthly membership program called the Self-Actualizers Club, as well as a free app where you can hear me hypnotize you for free. It's called Hypno. You can find it in Apple's App Store or Google's Play Store. For future episodes of How to Be an Adult, follow us on YouTube at Morpheus Hypnosis, or subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever else you get your podcasts.